Alright, digging a hole because you're a dwarf and you like to play Minecraft, and digging holes is awesome. I'm not sure what that has to do with web services, but really like the song, so we're going with it. So web service development, I want to emphasize that this is web services where you've got a web server front end, a database back end, and some sort of middleware, which could be PHP, Ruby on Rails, for the really heavyweight problems, Enterprise Java Beans, .NET, various other types of things. I'm not talking about web development of good-looking web pages, aesthetically pleasing web pages, because I don't have a lot of practice doing that, and my design decisions are, let's just say, questionable. So if you are interested in that, we have a fantastic art department. Try Fundamentals of 2D Design with Tim Stedman, Graphic Design with Christy. There's excellent resources in the art department for this sort of thing. I'm not really qualified to tell you very much other than, how you could set up cascading style sheets to plug in lots of things to control the formatting and look of your page. But other than that, I couldn't tell you like what settings to use because that's just kind of beyond my expertise. Anyway, there's many ways to edit stuff on a web server. I'm going to show you one particular way, which is using a local text editor to do your editing, and then use Filezilla to copy the files over to the server. Now, there's also the possibility of running your own database and web server locally on your own laptop and doing your editing and testing and debugging there. That's actually the best solution for kind of the long term to be able to test and debug and prototype things. But, in order for me to be able to see what you're doing, it's a lot easier if you have some easy way to get the files copied up to a web server that I kind of have access to. So that's what we're going to, and also if you're working in a team, this is a much better way to do things. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So the things you're going to need, first you're going to need a text editor locally running on your machine, your laptop, your lab machine, whatever it is, and it needs to understand how to edit code. So Sublime is a good choice. I've got the download link. This is what downloading Sublime would look like. Notepad++ on the Windows side, that's pretty fantastic. I don't know if Sublime is Mac only. I'm not really sure. Are you Mac only? Hello? Nope, looks like it runs on everything. Cool. Don't use Word for editing code, because Word doesn't save things as text, or at least not easily. You also need Filezilla. I've got the download link for that. Get the appropriate one. You can run it right out of your Z drive if you're running on one of the lab machines, or just install it on your laptop. You're going to need web space on one of the Linux machines. Euclid we're using right now, but we might also use Huygens or some of the other Linux machines as we add more of them. And you need phpMyAdmin running. If it's a course we're doing at Knox that involves web services, I'm probably teaching it, which means that I'm definitely going to have that available. And you have to be on campus. These machines are not visible off campus. They're basically firewalled off. You can't even see them from off campus. You don't even know that they're there. So if you do need to work from off campus, you're going to need to figure out how to configure the VPN. On Mac, I can tell you that it involves Cisco. Where's Cisco? Cisco. There we go. It involves this thing, the Cisco AnyConnect Secure thingy. I'm not sure what it would be on the Windows side of the world. It might be it's the same program, maybe it's not. So the first thing to do is grab the Hollywood PHP code. So I'm just going to click this link, which happens to have it in there, and I'm going to click Save, and I'm going to put it in my 262 folder. Technically it's already there, so I'm not actually going to re-download it, but let's pretend I just downloaded it. And close that tab. Now we're going to come over here. We're going to go into 262. I've got that zip file. Pretend that this doesn't exist. And I need to unzip this. On Windows, you have to right-click and do Extract All, because if you double-click something on Windows that's a zip file, the default behavior is to look at the stuff inside the zip file without unzipping it, which is a terrible default, but that's what it is. On Mac, you can just double-click it, so do whatever you need to do for your platform to unzip it. We go in here. These are all the sample examples we were looking at. Let's edit DB utils. I'm going to right-click and do open with Sublime. So it's going to open this with, oh, that warns me about that every time. Sublime, fantastic. So this is my editor. And you can see it understands that it's code because it's got, you know, keywords highlighted and the strings are highlighted and things like that. This is much better than working with just raw Notepad on the Windows side of things, or like TextEdit or whatever exists on the Mac side of things, the Mac version of Notepad. This is just much better. Notepad++ is going to do the same thing. It's going to try to understand what code should look like. So that's what we've got here. I'm going to close this and bounce back here. So let me jump back over to here. Next thing we need to do is think about, well, what's the relationship between this sort of URL that you always see and then this URL, which will then view what's inside it. And so, you know, this is obviously saying, like, go to this web server and then go into its CS262 alpha folder, and that happens to be showing you the same stuff as, like, this big complicated URL. An open question is why that is, and to understand what we're going to do with Filezilla, it's a good idea to understand what's actually going on there. So let me show you some things. So here I am. Oh, that's not where I want to be. Let's go to here. Home, Courses, CS262, F14, HTML. So if we look in here, bam, we've got everything in there. That's that Hollywood zip file I just downloaded. Here's all of these different databases that we've got set up for people. So if I come over, where is it? Nope, that's not it. Yes, there we go. If I come over here and go to Euclid, KNET EDU, CS262, I've got a view of that same stuff. So that same stuff is there. So somehow the web server knows when I say go to this web address, CS262, to show me everything that happens to, in practice, be in this pathway. You know, how does the web server know how to do that? Well, it turns out I'm using a little trick. I have what's called a symlink, linking from the main directory that has all of the web content in it. And I happen to know, just because I've done a lot of stuff with HTTP and Apache before, the location for that is here, var www.html. So if we look here, that's where we are. If we look at what's here, we've got this thing with this little @ sign at, the CS262, ls- let's do D, CS262. No, that's not what I wanted. Maybe I want ls-l. There we go. This is actually a symlink over to this spot. So by default, the web server just will serve up whatever content is in here. And we can kind of tell, because if we go here, you know, we get this index page. Well, what's this index page? Well, actually, that's just this, right? If you look at this web page, Math Department Internal Server, you know, all this other stuff, that's exactly what we're getting here, Math Department Internal Server. So, and then, you know, the reason phpMyAdmin works and not this whole address, once again, it's a symlink. It's a link over to here. So when you go into this folder and you do CS262, it's actually pointing you to some whole different place, and that's why that actually works. So just a quick aside to see what's going on there. Let's go back for now, or I guess actually we can go into CS262. Good. So what I'm going to do, let's go into Alpha and make sure it's cleaned up. I'm going to borrow the Alpha directory. Sorry, Team Alpha. I'm going to use your folder for a second here to show off a couple of examples of what's going on. So the first thing we're going to do, go to our local machine here. I'll delete that and recreate it. We've got all this Hollywood code in here. I'm going to grab like DB utils and order database 1. I'm going to copy them, and I'm going to make my own local alpha folder. I'll call it alpha, and I'll go in here and I'll paste those files. Bam. So we have local copies of those files. Now I'm going to open them. Open with Sublime. Bam. Look at that. In order database 1, I'll also open this with Sublime. And that's okay. Boom. Okay, wow. I bet I can grab this and... Oh, I can! And then I can get rid of this. Okay, well, this is really nice. I like this. I might be a Sublime user. Who knew? Who knew? I'm sorry, Emacs. I'm sorry. It's okay. Shh. Sorry, Emacs. Don't pretend you didn't hear that. Here. Go down there. Okay, good. I've been using Emacs since like 1994, probably 1995. Definitely 96. So it would be strange if I switched away from Emacs. Okay, so the next thing we've got to do is set up Filezilla. So here's Filezilla. Let's pretend that, I don't know, we weren't there. Actually, let's restart Filezilla, because I want to kind of go through the whole walkthrough of what's going to happen with Filezilla. So let's go here, Applications. We'll come down here. Whoop, where are you? There it is, Filezilla. So we're going to fire up Filezilla. And there we go. So Filezilla, we need to connect to the remote site. So let's go to euclid.lab.knet.edu, username, put in your username, password, my dog's name. Oh, right. Don't forget port 22. And just always click OK without reading this when it says somebody could be doing something terrible. Okay, good. So we're connected remotely. Now, if you notice where we are, we're looking at home employee JSPACO. I already know that's not what I want. I want home courses CS262. I'll hit enter to bring that up. Fall 14, HTML, alpha. That's what I'm connected to. This is my target, my remote location. Now I need to configure the local location to that alpha folder I just created locally. Well, on Windows, you'll probably, like by default, when you first start this for the first time, it'll be just looking at, on Macs, like the root of the file system. On Windows, it'll probably just be // I need to find my home directory, which in Mac is like users, Jamie Spacco, Knox, good, CS262F14, there we go, and there's that alpha folder. Bam, okay, good. So I've got this stuff here. So now I want to, like, I don't know, copy this stuff over. I'm just going to, like, drag it over for now. And then if I make updates to it, I just right-click it and say upload, and that'll upload a new copy. So now let's test this out. It's not going to work, but for a specific reason that I'm showing off. So we go here, we hit order database 1, could not execute query. Oh my god, the query didn't work. Why ever might that be? Well, let's go ahead and check this out. So this is a terminal session that is connected over to Euclid. On Windows, you could be using PuTTY. On Mac, just open up your terminal and then SSH over to Euclid. But somehow get yourself connected to Euclid with a command line. What you want to do is look at you want to look at this following file: var log httpd error log. So I'm going to open that up. I want to go to the bottom of the file. I'm using vi 0 capital G will do that. And now I start. In fact, let me make this. I'll even make this enormously big. How's that? Look at that. Cool. So we can sort of go back here and be like, what's going on here? Why does this not work? So you got to look back to approximately whatever time it was you tried to connect. 15:11:47. That's probably about now. And so you can see, look at what we're saying. It's saying access denied for user root at localhost using password in home courses dbutils line 12. Well, let me go back here to Sublime, dbutils line 12. What do you know? That's here. I'm trying to make this connection. Well, this is set to root. Well, I'm not root. I'm alpha. Let me change this to alpha. And then save this file. Now I need to get this back at server side. So let's go here. We'll right-click here. We'll say upload. 929 bytes, slightly bigger than the 927. I want to overwrite. If you want to be, crazy and like you don't think you're going to make a mistake, you could say like always apply to uploads that I'm going to just overwrite anything. Never overwrite my local stuff, but always overwrite my global stuff. That's probably fine. I'm going to go ahead and say that. Good. So now let's try this again and see if this works. Haha, look at that. Bam. Totally worked. Now it's connecting to the database, and I can like sort by age. Oh, Groucho Marx, -1. Let's sort by actor ID. Oh my god, this is the coolest thing ever. Look at that. Fantastic. So now if I want to make changes, where's my Sublime? There we go. To like order database 1, maybe I want, I don't know, what do I want to do to this? Let's do something kind of trivial. Maybe I want to add a border to the table. Border equal 1. save this, come back over to here, and I'll upload. There we go. And that's going to upload automatically. Let's reload this. Oh, there we go. Now we've got borders around everything. So this way you can go ahead and use your local text. Where are you, local text editor? There we go. Local text editor to do the coding. This looks reasonable. There's no lag because it's running locally, or possibly running, through Nox Anywhere or something like that. So we can do our editing, and then we're going to use Filezilla. That's going to update everything over here on the server, and then we can go over here and test things out here server side. And you can see this form was a get, because you can see the parameter of the form, the thing that we clicked here, the radio button value showing up there. We can do all of our debugging and whatnot this way, which is pretty fantastic. So I think I've got one other slide on this. Edit locally, then synchronize. We saw that. Problems that might come up. Well, we already saw, when you get an error and you're not really sure why, you have to look here, var log httpd error log. Right now, we just made this publicly readable, which is probably not the best thing in the world. I might have to come up with a better solution there, but I don't know, what else to do. The other weird thing about this is all of the HTTP errors that go in there, they're mostly going to be PHP errors, but there's no way to know that it's your PHP error, not somebody else's. So if you're all editing at the same time, you have to do your best to try to match the timestamps up to when you happen to click the link in your browser and try to figure out what error message is yours. Definitely remember the database passwords matter. This matters a lot if you're running a local server that has a different password than what your database password on Euclid would be, something like that. Linux file permissions are going to be a big pain in the butt. So let's sort of step through that real quick. So here I am, alpha. If I do ls-l, L stands for long list. We'll see that I've got database utils and order database. I copied these up, so I'm the owner, and the group it's in is the student group. And so we look over here. This is my permission, so I have read and write. This is group permission, so any student can read, and this is other. This means anyone else on the system not in the student group, also not me, can just read the file. Now the problem is, let me connect myself up here to root, and I typed in the wrong password. Let's try that again. Ha! Look at that, I'm root now. One thing I can do as root is become somebody. Who do I want to become? Let's become Austin, because he did a bunch of web development over the summer. So suppose Austin and I are partners. Look at this, I'm now Austin. So we look at this. Suppose Austin comes in here and is like, hey, I'd like to edit order database. So he opened this file. Maybe he just wants to add some white space. So he does that, tries to save the file. Oh my god, read-only is set. So why is that? Well, who am I? Who am I? Right now I'm A Lake. But if we look in here, these files are owned by JSpacko. So the way to fix that, let's log out of here, go back to root, go back to JSpacko. Here's what we're going to do is I'm going to change the mode on these to group plus read write. Well, group plus write should do it. Everything. So chmod has changed the mode, which is basically changed the ownership permissions. G plus W means add write permission to group. Star means every file in here. So now if I look at that, the group, anyone in this student group has read-write permissions, and if I do groups of Austin, you'll see Austin is in the student group. So now Austin would be able to write to these files. Now, of course, the big pain here is if I create a new file called, say foo, we look at this, you notice foo doesn't have that write bit set. What I actually have to do is use this command called umask. There we go. These are my default permissions. Bizarrely, this is, well, I have to explain how the binary part of this works. That's really annoying. Well, I don't want to explain all of that anyway. Check the documentation for umask. The easiest thing to do is what you would basically do, like if I change my umask, what that'll mean is any files that I create are going to take on that permission. The problem with this is you're not actually creating them from the command line, you're actually creating things over here through Filezilla. I don't think there's any way to set umasks on here. What you actually have to do is set it up like in your bash RC, which is like this. You know, you have to like, you can see I have zillions of configuration settings in here. So you can change your UMask in here, but that's a really complicated process. So for now, I'm going to leave that out and assume that one person's going to be using the Filezilla to get the files uploaded, and that the other person's then not going to be expecting to go in and change them. For something like CS320, there's things we can do to make this possible. We can create groups for everyone. We can make sure that everyone gets their UMask set. But for now, we're not going to do that. We'll leave that for a future version. And again, if you're running your own local web server, you won't have this problem at all because everything's running locally. Awesome. So those are some problems that you might have and how you can fix a number of them. Cool. Thanks for listening. I'll leave you with more Diggy Diggy Hole.
Down to me, stop your bellies.